Look what arrived here, the Huawei P60 Pro with X-Match and Kunlun glass. So I will do an unboxing and first look, so let's get started. So let me tell you about Kunlun glass that Huawei is advertising heavily for this year's release. Kunlun glass is a nano microcrystalline glass made by growing 10 quadrillion level strong nanocrystals in glass, significantly improving the glass's strength. Rock solid, 10 times more resistant to falling. This is at least what Huawei is saying about it. And what is X-Match? That's a replacement for the Leica branding, which is Huawei's own image processing pipeline branding that promises high-quality photos and videos. Now back to the unboxing. As you can see, Huawei ships not only with the phone, Sony, but also a soft TPU case as well as a charger, which this year can charge up to 88 watt. And this not only via USB-A but also USB-C, so you can charge your laptop and phone, but not at the same time. Back to the device. I have the Rococo Pearl variant here, which has a very cool and unique pattern on the back that is marvelous looking in person, better than what the camera can reproduce. The inner specs quickly out of the way. This is the global model with 8 GB of RAM and 256 GB of internal space. There's also 12 GB RAM and 512 GB version available. The front screen 6.67 inch OLED, of course protected by Kunlun glass, and offers a little bit more than full HD resolution. As you can see at the camera cutout, we have a screen protector pre-installed already. On the sides we have the volume rocker and power button with a slight red accent color. On the top we have the IR blaster microphone and one of the two main speakers. The whole frame is made of polished aluminum, and in contrast to all other modern phones, it has a nice round curvature. On the bottom we can see the hybrid nano SIM slot that can either store 2 nano SIMs or a nano SIM and Huawei's NM card for storage expansion. Next to it, it's another microphone and the USB-C 3.1 speed with display out and OTG support, as well as the secondary speaker. And now what you all have been waiting for, the camera system. I'm starting with the front-facing camera of the P60 Pro, and this has, of course, just like the Mate 50 Pro, this capabilities to record 4K 30, but I think also 4K 60, and we have by default the 0.8 times magnification. I can go even wider if you want to, and stabilization is quite okay, I would say. And what do you think about this one here? And of course I can also go to 1 times, which looks like this, and back to 0.8 times. HDR should be fine as well. What do you think about the recording capabilities here on the P60 Pro? Before I show you the back-facing video, let's talk about the front-facing camera that is housed here in this punch hole. You can see it's a very small hole. I think Huawei even managed to make it a little bit smaller than on the predecessor. And we have a 13 megapixel camera sensor here that can record up to 4K 60 frames per second, which is quite interesting. But in contrast to the predecessor, we don't have any autofocus here. Then in the koala-like housed camera setup on the back, we have the 48 megapixel main camera sensor with variable aperture, just like on the Mate 50 Pro. So from f1.4 to f4 you can switch between the apertures, real variable aperture, not just like on the Xiaomi 13 Ultra where you can switch between 2. No, here you have at least I think 4 stops that you can switch between. Then we have a 13 megapixel ultra wide angle with also 4K up to 30 frames per second support, and we have the periscope zoom camera, very large sensor size here and very large f2.1 aperture for this kind of sensor, 3.5 times telezoom camera with macro capabilities as well, which is quite interesting. And yeah, let's take a look at the back-facing video. And now recording with the main camera sensor of the P60 Pro. This has a variable aperture just like the Mate 50 Pro. So by default, I think it is recording with f2 aperture in this bright daylight situation because it gives you a little bit more of sharpness, especially on your face. and of course 4K 30, but I can also record 4K 60, and I can also go in 4K 30 down and zoom out to the ultra wide angle. This is the ultra wide angle, 4K and 30 frames per second. What do you think about this one here? How good are the colors here, and stabilization if I move around a little bit? The reason why I'm not moving around too much is this little guy here that I have here on the leash. You can see my little puppy there. Sadly, Huawei still has this zoom slider instead of zoom button, so I have to slide to zoom into 1 times. Now switch lenses, and yeah, maybe I can zoom in even further to the 3.2 times. There, 3.5 times actually now we have. Here you can see Timmy struggling to find his way. And yeah, I can even zoom in a little bit more. I'll switch lenses, I think, to 15 times at 4K 30 frames per second recording, and it has close focusing distance, which is quite nice. And yeah, a very nice video. Stabilization should be fine as well. So let's walk a little bit. Timmy, let's walk here. Come. And yeah, so let's walk a little bit to see how good the stabilization is here in this little park. And we are now at 1 times. And yeah, let's take a walk. I think it's pretty stable here. 4K 30, no issues. What do you think about the quality here? And HDR, I think, should be fine as well. So what do you think about this one here on the P60 Pro? And now I'm recording with the Pro mode and f1.4 aperture and using the internal mics, despite me having still my microphone here on my collar. What do you think about the background blur here? What do you think about the HDR effect and stabilization when we walk around? What do you think about this one here? Tell me in the comments. So let's take a look at the photos. So here I took a photo with the main camera lens, and you can see a wonderful kind of details here. It is sharpening things up a little bit, and it's adding a little bit of punchy colors, but it is so subtle in comparison to all the other cameras and manufacturers that I would say it's almost on par with Sony and its subtleness in adding color. So it's a natural color profile by Xmage that you have here, and you can see also with fast shots it is working, but not always. The 3.5 times zoom that I used here is also working fine. As you can see here, it has a very large aperture. This is why here this part is a little less sharp. The nose is a little less sharp, but I think the eyes are almost sharp. So it is doing a fine job there for this kind of shot when the dog is moving fast. 30mm ultra wide angle looks very, very ultra wide, looks okay indeed. A little bit overblown highlights maybe there, and a bit of chromatic aberrations and a bit of punchy colors. You can see the distortion here on the side especially, but it's very, very wide angle and adding a little bit sharpness for sure. It looks a bit artificial here and there, but who's zooming in into the super wide angle shots? Otherwise, yeah, a nice shot, I would say, for this kind of camera. But the highlight definitely is the 3.5 times zoom. Here, again, as you can see, a razor sharp, a little bit sharpening added there, but nice background blur that is not added manually or via AI or processing. It is just natural bokeh that you have here, thanks to the large sensor and aperture. And here we have 10 times zoom. You can see as long as I'm not zooming in a bit further, it looks okay, but as I zoom in, you can see the details are a bit degrading here for sure. Same goes for here, where I can zoom in and you can see, yeah, there are details there, but it's not razor sharp. Cool thing about the telezoom lens is that you can use it for macro photography. This is one of the macro shots, and you get the same kind of vibe that you get with the Xiaomi 13 Pro that also has this kind of capability. And it looks very, very cool. But you can see also that the shadow depth of field is so shallow that here the front is a little bit unsharp and the back there is sharp. So yeah, pretty interesting. And you can get multiple shots here. We can see even the pollen on the flower itself, which is very, very cool. And yeah, a little bit shots about my dog still. This is now in action mode. You can see action mode is desaturating a little bit the colors here and there. And I think it is a bit more grainy, you can see for sure. because it's like choosing a very fast shutter speed, and then also the ISO is getting up a little bit here for sure. But you'd have to use this action mode for fast moving subjects, though I still had the issue that sometimes even the action mode was not able to capture my dog. Forget about the normal mode where I could press the shutter and could literally almost count to 1 until it really took the shot, which with the action mode is a bit quicker, but still there was a noticeable delay, which is way worse than what the normal shutter speed of Xiaomi's 13 Pro is, or the action mode on the Oppo Find X6 Pro is much faster than this one here. Here you can see, yeah, okay, this here is sharp. The rest of the dog is just simply moving too fast. And this is me. Yeah, the dog wanted me to go somewhere, so you can see he's pulling on my arm, but otherwise this is the selfie cam. As you can see, it's doing, I think, a fine job when it comes to detail retrieval and so on. You don't have autofocus here. It's not sharpening up too much. I have the AI that is enhancing my face disabled. You see a bit of overblown highlights here in the background because it was a very sunny day at this time. And you can see chromatic aberrations everywhere, which is a bit, and maybe overexposure there as well. Not so desirable, but in general, I think it's a nice shot. And yeah, here the dog itself, again, with the main lens, razor sharp there. And this is a nice shot that I took of him not really seeing my screen because it was so low angle, and yeah, I just used one of the volume buttons to just point and shoot, and you can see the main lens at least has very fast, accurate autofocus, and you get a nice shot, nice background blur as well. I'm not sure which aperture it was using here, f2, so this is what it defaults mostly, because then you get really this is the sweet spot for this lens here, to get nailing the sharpness. You can also go to f1.4 if you want to, but then you have to be a bit careful. Talking about shutter speed and not being the fastest, you have this capability of macro photography with the telephoto lens. That is very useful if you want to photograph a bee, for example, here, or a wet wasp, I think it is here in the flowers. But you can see it was like focusing here instead of the, yeah, there. Simply probably misfocus here together with like the bee moving very fast, which the phone could not track so fast. And here as well, you can see that it's not really sharp. I'm not sure what it focusing was. Focus point probably there. And yeah, here I nailed the sharpness. I was using tap to focus, and this bee was like, or wasp was like very still for a second, so the camera really had the time to capture this shot. And you can see wonderful details on this little wasp. Very, very interesting indeed. And I really like this kind of macro photography. Otherwise, the main camera lens, you can see nice colors. It's not overdoing it with the blues in the skies, over punching the colors. And the detail level, I think, is okay. It is sharpening things up, definitely. HDR is okay. You can see some details here in the trees for sure. This is fine. If I zoom in 3.5 times, I think maybe a little bit too dark here eventually, but details are nice still. I don't see on first glance much of a difference to the 3.5 times zoom that I had with my Mate 50, or that I have with my Mate 50 Pro, to be honest, or the 3.2 times on the Xiaomi 13 Pro and others, but I will do a special comparison against them as well. And here the 10 times zoom looks nice as well. And if I zoom in, detail levels, yeah, so and so, I would say. You can see it's quite soft and doing a processing here. So this is 10 times. This is the maximum that I would get here or go for. Otherwise, everything else is like just too bad of a quality. And yeah, the dog again here playing with his big stick, large stick that he wanted here. This is really, really nice quality for sure, with the main camera lens and sensor, very, very cool. And you get this shallow depth of field background effect, which is very, very nice, and background blur effect. And yeah, also sometimes the action mode, this is not the action mode, the normal mode is like quick enough to capture the dog in a cute moment, which happened here. Otherwise, what do you think about the photos? My first impressions of the photos, I only took them now in daylight here, those shots. It's quite okay, it's quite good, but it's not a huge improvement, at least on first glance to the Mate 50 Pro and what we had there. I think the really cool thing is definitely the macro lens, that you have the capabilities with the 3.5 times zoom to take 10 centimeter close-up shots, which is very cool, and you get very much good details out of this. And the only thing that I really don't like so much, and that had it in the past, but here I think it's even slower than on the Mate 50 Pro, is the shutter speed. So the shutter lag is like very noticeable here, especially if you used Oppo, Xiaomi, especially Xiaomi, that has tremendously improved this with its 13 series. And also the Oppo Find X6 Pro is a bit quicker here, where here it takes a little bit too much time. And now I took a screenshot. Anyway, that's it for the photos. Let's take a look at the TPU case that comes with the P60 Pro. Of course, it fits nicely. It's a typical soft case, and it should protect the edges and also the camera lens. But is it really? You can see it has two large bumps there over the camera bump, and we have of course protection for the screen as well, but I'm not sure if this is enough. For the screen it's a bit less already, but should work. But for the camera bump and the back here, it's not really protecting the main camera lens, so it is like lying on its metal ring when I just lie it down, which is a bit of a bummer, I would say. Otherwise, buttons are nice. Comes to sound, the two stereo speakers on the bottom and the top are producing very rich sound, crystal clear sound with good amount of bass. It's bassier and fuller sounding than on the Mate 50 Pro that also had a very good stereo setup. From the loudness level, it is comparable with the Mate 50 Pro, so nothing improved there, but it's getting pretty loud without distorting, but also you feel a lot of vibrating here on the back when you put it to the loudest level. A white wine level 1 is shipped on the P60 Pro, so you don't have to worry about Netflix not running in full HD. Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime and so on are working all with the highest resolution possible, despite Huawei not having Google services. Not having Google services is not an issue for Huawei, at least for most of the apps. The Huawei App Gallery has been significantly improved, so that if you're searching for an app, just like for example Instagram, you can find it there and can install it from the new location called App Parks. And you can also update those applications automatically without needing a special kind of credentials or going to a website to download the APK manually. Thanks to the new App Parks application APK source, which is available from Pedal Search, as you can see here. And most of the apps you can find then here without any issue. So if you need Google services nevertheless for certain applications like Google Maps with saving of locations and your bookmarks, or Google Drive access or Google Photos, you can install the GBox application, and within the GBox application you can install many more Google applications as well. I will do a dedicated video about GBox in its brand new version to show you how this is working, so stay tuned for this. Probably will be linked down below in the description as well. Talking a bit about the haptics, the haptic motor is pretty okay. So if I'm searching for something, here typing for something like this, for example, it is pretty okay. It is not like outstanding, but it's not one of the weakest motors there. It's just simply the same that you would expect in a flagship phone this expensive. So it's working nicely for me. I don't have any issues when it comes to this kind of haptics motor. I like it very much. The device ships with Emotion UI 13.1, which is the first version of Emotion UI 13, or the instance of Emotion UI 13 that we see here outside of China, where it is called HarmonyOS 3.1, but basically in the core it is the same kind of system. This one is based on Android 12 or has Android 12 as AOSP and support for Android applications, but it's also HarmonyOS applications that are supported here. As you can read here in this system information, HarmonyOS information, and then system, you can see here we have beta 2 of HarmonyOS version 3.1.0, OpenHarmony 3.0.0 beta 2 there, and API level. So there is HarmonyOS underneath here as well, which is quite cool. The display is a very bright display that you won't have any outside sunshine readability issues. It goes over 1000 nits for sure, and so no issues at all, even in direct sunlight. You can read everything. 6.67 inch, as you can see here, with this a little bit of weird resolution that Huawei is using here. It's an LTPO display, so it can go down to 1 Hertz and has 1 billion colors, and 120 Hertz it can go up to, and you can set this up in your settings if you go to your display and brightness settings, and you can set the screen refresh rate here to dynamic, which will turn it down from 1 Hertz to 120 Hertz, high to always run on 120 Hertz, or standard, which will go to 60 Hertz. What I'm missing here might be like something in between, like an option where I would say I want to run it from or at 90 Hertz, so to save a little bit of battery here. But I think the dynamic option is working way better here on this LTPO display than on the Mate 50 Pro, where you had some stutters here and there because it was regulating its down to 60 Hertz, and then you had some stutters there when swiping around or changing applications, and you notice that little micro stutters that you don't have here with the dynamic option on the P60 Pro, which is a welcome improvement. When it comes to connectivity, no issues at all. We have a wonderful GPS here that acquires relatively quick fix even indoors. As you can see here, we have a 3D fix already. Accuracy is like around 4 to 3 meters minimum, because it's a Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, which does not allow for more accurate kind of GPS, but it's very quick in acquiring the fix. And when it comes to phoning, calling, no issues at all here. And also the Wi-Fi speeds are very, very fast. Huawei put special Wi-Fi antennas in here, just like on the Mate 50 Pro, and can achieve very fast downloads and uploads. We have Wi-Fi 6 here, and I'm connected currently to a Wi-Fi 6 Plus router from Huawei, and this can achieve a little bit more speeds, and I can basically get away with speeds that are as quick as connecting this phone to via cable to the router, which is very, very fascinating here. So one of the specialties, very good Wi-Fi antennas on the Huawei P60 Pro. The device can be quickly charged up either wirelessly with 50-watt wireless charging here, which is quite fast, or you can also rely on the wired 88-watt charger that also features a turbo mode that you can activate just by pressing and holding, which can very quickly fast charge your device until you can use it again. As you can see here, in a few seconds it's charging up 1%, and it's going up then in roughly 20 minutes, 25 minutes, you have your device charged up. So my first impressions of the P60 Pro, filmed with the P60 Pro and my external microphone, this is why I'm holding the box here in my hand, is that the P60 Pro is a lot of fun to use for sure. It is a worthy successor to the P50 Pro for sure, because you really feel the more fluid design of the operating system. And I know there are a lot of Kirin processor lovers out there, but the Kirin processor is getting a bit old, and the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 together with its LTPO display really is a bit faster and feels quicker than the Kirin 9000 on the P50 Pro. Compared to the Mate 50 Pro, this might be a completely different kind of story, because here I don't see any compelling reasons to upgrade to the P60 Pro so far in my first initial test. But of course I will do a camera comparison, P60 Pro against the Mate 50 Pro, as well as the predecessor, the P50 Pro, to see which one is on top, and I will compare the P60 Pro against the Xiaomi 13 Pro, against the Oppo Find X6 Pro, and all the other devices that I have here. Let me take a look at the Vivo X90 Pro Plus, for example, maybe even the Xperia Pro I or the Xperia 1 Mark IV, maybe the Xperia 1 Mark V at one point, we will see. So yeah, that's it for this little longer unboxing and first impressions video of the Huawei P60 Pro. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have questions, you can ask them down in the comments section down below. That's it for this video. Until the next time, bye.